everyone. Thank you for joining us, and welcome back to another live episode of Hail Yes, a Michigan football and basketball podcast by the Detroit Free Press. I'm Andrew Burkle, of course, joined by our Michigan beat writer, Tony Garcia, as well as we're lucky to be joined by Michigan assistant Mike Boynton as well. Mike, thanks for joining us today, man. How are you doing?
Man, I'm doing great. Appreciate you guys having me. Look forward to catching up and talking all things Michigan basketball, maybe a little Detroit Pistons as well.
Yeah, I heard there's a pretty decent Pistons player who you might know a thing or two about. But Mike, I was just thinking about right before we get started. I think the last couple times we've run into each other, a few hours before the national championship, I'm walking into the bank. I got to send a wire, and I think you had some Diet Cokes. You're just in the hours and getting ready for that national title game. We talked on the court, covered in confetti. And then I know you had to run around the country a little bit. And then we saw each other at the parade. I mean, just what kind of whirlwind? And that was all in like 5 days. What kind of whirlwind was that like?
Man, it was the best kind of chaos a coach could ask for. Obviously, very stressful in our initial meeting, just trying to keep the nerves calm. My dad actually got to come to Indianapolis, and my sister, my wife and kids were there, and somebody needed to go out and get some Diet Coke. And I was like, I've had enough of sitting in the hotel room. I'm going to go take a walk. And so that was my assignment that day. And obviously, we really enjoyed, the rest of the night and everything that came with it. Obviously, it was a game probably played like most people thought it would be played. I guess most people watch both teams. Like, we played a couple nasty slugfest, low-scoring games. We didn't prefer to play that way, but we were prepared to play that way. And obviously, we needed our defense to rule the night that night, and it did. Like it has so many other nights. And then the adulation of winning it all and beating the team who's really kind of dominated college basketball for the last 4 or 5 years, and the respect we have for that program is tremendous. And then there's a kind of a weird kind of post-game deal the night of the national championship game. We enjoyed it. We're on the nets. We're cutting it down. And everybody on our staff is mindful of the time because at midnight, the transfer portal opens. And obviously, you're a little bit behind in terms of like being able to be aggressive out there because you're playing. You're trying to enjoy it. You want your team to feel like you're fully engaged with them. We got guys who really deserved to have that moment be singularly special. Guys like Will Cheddar and Amari Burnett, who've been through everything they've been through with Michigan basketball. Guys like Roddy Gale, guys like Trey McKinney, who dreamed of playing for Michigan and being able to do it and excel the way he did. But as a staff, you got to be able to do multiple things. So we were all prepared. The next day we got up, we got ourselves back to Ann Arbor, and we were ripping and running. I took a trip out west with Yaxel to go to the Wooden Award. Took a red eye back to Ann Arbor for the parade, and it's been nonstop ever since.
Yeah, and isn't that sort of seems like the catch-22 of it all? Before I finish that thought, anyone watching, I'm sure you have questions for Mike as well, and we'll do our best to get to those as well. So fire them in, and we'll see what we can get to. But like I was saying, that's the catch-22 of it all, right? Because if you're the coaches who have been eliminated, which is every team in the country, but two, you wish to be playing in that game, right? And then now you guys finally find yourself in that game, and after, you had a lengthy career in college basketball, always wanting to be in that moment. And there you are. And of course, it's the pinnacle. It doesn't get better than that. But what I take from what you're saying is there's, like the small part of you, it's like, man, I wish we could have been doing like focusing on the due diligence because we already got to think about next season, right? It's just the timing of it is so difficult.
Yeah. And again, no one wants to listen to us complain. That's for sure, right? So we're not going to do that. But we will say if there was somebody willing to say how can we do it better, the teams that play the best and ultimately get to the final game shouldn't necessarily have to be behind as they move forward into the next season. There are 363 other teams. I understand most of which were done 3 weeks ago, right? It's only 68 teams even playing 3 weeks prior to that night. But there should be maybe a couple days even. Right? Even if it's just 48 hours of the coaches and the team who actually accomplish the ultimate goal that everybody sets out to actually just enjoy it and not worry about what's necessarily immediately coming right afterwards. So again, these are the rules we have. So as a coaching staff, our job is to prepare as best we can and move on. But I do feel like we're kind of cheating the kids who are in that moment a little bit by not being able to just not think about who's going to draft, who's coming back, who may be transferred, who wants to come in, who wants to visit, who wants to do a Zoom. We had a guy literally ask for a Zoom that night. I mean, when there was a conversation about whether we should do a Zoom from the locker room as a staff in that little room that we had off to the side. And it would be brief, but we'd have the trophy of the Nets and, there's some of this stuff should still be sacred and should be able to be enjoyed amongst the team and the staff.
That's a hell of a sales pitch, right? Hey, here, look, check this out, right? You want to come ball with us? And so what I'm taking from this, and I mean, I've heard it from people in your circles and whatnot, that April is maybe people think it's, the season's finally over, right? Is April the busiest month of the year for you guys?
Yeah, in a kind of an unfortunate way, alluding to what we were talking about. It used to be that April was busy because you were starting a couple weeks after the Final Four, peering ahead to the junior class and recruiting, right? And maybe there was a late kid who got hot. DiVincenzo, it comes to my mind because they're still playing. Like, he gets hot in that tournament, he's going to draft, and all of a sudden he's a first-round pick. And, like, Villanova's probably got to figure out a way to replace a guy they didn't think was going to be a first-round pick before the tournament started, right? And those things happen every year, but they're one-offs. And now it's like everybody on your team could leave, literally, no matter what the circumstance is. They could leave because they're not playing enough, because they're playing really well, because they've had a good streak here, whatever the case is. And there's certainly a better way we could be doing this. And obviously it's a conversation for probably a different setting. But again, no one wants to hear us complain. We'll enjoy the national championship. And if we're in this situation again under the same rules, we'll take it.
It seems like you and your staff have kind of maintained or, handled that chaos, basically, for lack of a better word, better than some of the other staffs across the country. Has there been like a moment or a conversation where you guys have all said, like you said, the guys are the staff, like, hey, should we look at the portal? It's open at midnight. Was there like a big picture conversation about like, hey, let's all just embrace it. These are the rules we have. Or is that just kind of like the group of people you guys have in that locker room?
No, it's one of the many geniuses of Dusty. His ability to kind of have foresight and kind of demand that we all as a staff just lean into what we're actually dealing with. Now, behind closed doors, we may say, man, we wish we could do this better. We wish this was a little differently, but we're certainly not. That's not dominating the conversation in our building, certainly not in our offices, because for the most part, as coaches, we're like one of the fewest influences on the rules that are made. There are committees and there are subcommittees, and then there's the student athlete's voice is really important, which is really cool. And it wasn't always the case. But as coaches, we usually hear it being reported by people like Tony Garcia. What's going on in our industry? And we're like, so we couldn't give a ride in the rain 5 years ago. Otherwise, it was a violation. And now we can get out of the car and give him the keys and tell him it's his and walk ourselves. I mean, that's literally been the drastic shift in our industry in the last 5 to 7 years or so. And there's no need to complain about it. We're going this direction now. And let's just try as much as we can to anticipate what's next and be as prepared for it as possible, while at the same time, still at the core of what we do is developing relationships and helping guys get better and achieve their goals. Let's not forget that's the most important thing.
Yeah, that's something, not that anyone's asking for my opinion, but that's something that I've noticed and really admired about this staff the last 2 years. I mean, when people ask me about just sort of what's going on, or we're just talking, I just talk about like, it really seems like there is just no stone unturned. It's not just plan A and B. It feels like it goes all the way to F and G and like permutations of things that like someone like me or who hasn't lived this, like you can't even prepare for these contingencies. Like I feel like an example that's coming to mind right now is this 5-5 situation, right? Like it seemed like 3 months ago, when LJ goes down, and then I know the decision is made to redshirt him, or that's the announcement at the time. But now it's feeling like this 5-5 thing is going to come sometime this summer ahead of the academic year next year. I mean, hypothetically, and correct me if I'm wrong, if LJ's good to go in February or what have you, there's really no benefit to holding him out versus to gain those extra years, because it's finite on the back end.
Yeah, it's ever changing, and he could be told that this year is going to count against him no matter what. And under that circumstance, if LJ's ready to go in February, we want to give him a chance to play and help next year's team win at the highest level as possible to do. So, there's always a cost-benefit analysis as you go through these processes. Lincoln Cosby is on the other end of that exact same spectrum, right? He's a kid who's coming to college a year early, and in a way, kind of losing what would have a year ago when he made the decision been a great benefit to him, which is to redshirt and get healthy and then have 4 years to figure it out. Does it really make sense? I don't know. That's a conversation that we'll have to have with him and his parents, but maybe he just needs to attack his rehab as aggressively as possible in an intelligent way, right? Not risking further injury, but if he's ready to play and help next year's team, then let's see how he can and what his role could be. That certainly wasn't part of the plan. The plan was totally to redshirt him, but under the new rules, we're ready to adapt and adjust and move forward the way it's going to give our team the best chance to win, first and foremost, but also these players being put in position to achieve their goals.
Lincoln Cosby, the 4-star forward, incoming freshman from Montverde. That would have been a great segue to someone else who played there, but I just want to pivot quickly to the upcoming roster before we get into
I'm sure we'll get there. I'm sure we got some anxious
what the Pistons did.
fans out there.
Yeah. No doubt. I think all of us in this state pretty fired up. I was just talking to someone, and it's just a quick aside. I'm 33. That was the first Pistons series they've won since I could drive a car. So it's been a long time.
Yeah.
But you mentioned next year's roster. Trey and Elliott feel like the most known commodities of the team. But a handful of talented addition for freshmen. I know there's a number of transfers, be it Cham or Estrella or Jalen Reed, who are coming in. Who do you think is someone who could be the most pleasant surprise in terms of? I know there's high expectations for everyone, but in terms of even exceeding those expectations, I think of someone like a Daimara this past.
Yeah, I think that honestly, there's probably two buckets here. There are people who people know because they've seen them play, right? JP Estrella is a proven high major college basketball player, is a very productive player at Tennessee the time he's been there. Mustafa Cham, who's on NBA draft boards, certainly has an opportunity to improve his status as an NBA player, whatever time he has with us. Jalen Reed's had a unique kind of path. So you got the transfers who people kind of have some awareness of. But you probably have seen the guys that I'm going to mention as much as anybody because you have a chance to see us off the national radar. But Oscar Goodman and Ricky Liburd, because I think they've already even gotten buried in terms of attention below the incoming freshman class. Oscar's been in our program for 2 years. He knows our system really, really well. He has an opportunity to be a nice rotational player for us, a guy who feels a energy, rebounding, versatile defender. And I don't want to put expectations of other players on different players, but just think of the energy and versatility that we were able to use Will Cheddar with. Shoots it well, brings great energy, tough enough to guard multiple positions. And so it gives you great versatility in a system that requires it. Because Dusty he's not a one-trick pony kind of guy. Trey McKinney plays some point guard for us this year. Roddy Gale plays some power forward and some point guard for us this year. We'll try to play some 5, some 4, some 3. And then Ricky Liburd, who I think kind of has probably flown under the radar as much as anybody because he was new to our program and didn't play at all last year, was on the redshirt path. He's a guy who's got the ability to both defend 1 through 4. Just from his size, quickness, strength, physicality. But he could also play offensively in any of our perimeter spots as well. He can be a floor spacer. He can be a shot creator. He's a guy who's really, really good on the move as a cutter and offensive rebounder. And I think both of those guys are names that people should just right now pencil in to keep their eyes on early in the year to see how they progress. Those two guys, we hope, we can get a lot of reps on our foreign trip this summer to get them some time game ready.
I had one more I wanted to, but you just, the light bulb just went on. Is that foreign trip? Is that official?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I thought it was announced already. I hope Dusty's not listening. I've dropped some news on it, but we're going to take a trip in August. I don't know exactly all the details of it, but it'll be late in August, probably just before school starts. And again, it'll be a great opportunity for this team who's got a lot of new pieces to play some real action with the bullets flying, so to speak, but without I don't want to get too far ahead because I don't know if this stuff will be televised or not. Who knows what it's going to be in 3 months. These things may be picked up by Big Ten Network. I have no idea the way things have rapidly progressed. Usually you just go off to some European island for 10 days and play a couple games and you could come back and tell people whatever you wanted to tell them.
Yeah. Yeah. We actually won 100-5 every game. Everyone's going to be first team all Big Ten. I'm not putting you on the hot seat because I have been told, and we wrote the story.
I feel very confident.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge is sort of what I was told. Look at when we've taken other trips in the past, late August.
Sure. It lines up. It's very, very likely unless something drastic changes. And the NCAA tells us we can't do it after they said we can do it every year now, which wouldn't be crazy for me to hear the NCAA do something that was totally contradictory of what they did last week.
It would not be the first time. But the last one that I was going to get to before Andrew had one is because, I mean, when you talk about Ricky, you talk about Oscar. Those are guys who, I mean, I feel like Ricky's maybe sort of a 3, but I know you guys are very loose with it. Oscar, sort of a 3. It feels like we sort of know from the outside, like penciling in the lineups and doing things. A 1, a 2, a 4, a 5 sort of seems clear. I mean, I know you guys are going to have internal competition, but scale of 1 to 10, what's the likelihood that you guys add another body to this team? Maybe at that 3, and what would be the pros to doing so? Or the cons to doing so, and the pros and cons to just keeping the roster as is.
Yeah, obviously, anytime you can add another talented player who fits in what you do, there's almost like a 95-5 positive effect there, right? It happened basically with Yaxel last year in a totally different way. Like our team was pretty well set. We actually felt really, really good. I remember talking maybe in the media availability or maybe with a podcast with Brian around this time last year, we were heading in the draft process about feeling really good about our roster. And if we could have an opportunity to add a guy like that, we feel like we could raise our ceiling. And so anytime you have a chance to raise the ceiling of your team, when you feel like you got a pretty good floor, you probably want to take that chance. And again, do we win a national championship without Yax? We could, but it sure was easier to do it with him.
That's all right.
So yeah, I mean, I would say we're always, as a staff, making sure we're in contact with the people we know in basketball who have contacts with people who are talented players. And obviously, we got some guys in the draft process who we're obviously monitoring that situation as well. I would put it at probably 60-40, yes, that we would add another player, whether a returning guy or somebody brand new to the team. But again, if we didn't, our staff feels very, very good about the roster that we have currently.
I'm curious about just the style of play. And you said, Dusty likes to be malleable. He likes to change things. How does that evolve? And does it basically start when you're looking at the transfer portal at midnight after the championship game? And when do you kind of get an identity? Because I know it's obviously like, we're playing Minnesota. They like to do this. And we're playing Wisconsin. They like to do this. But like, as far as just having an actual identity, with the group of guys that you have, when does that start to come together?
Usually not until we start practice. We have these guys coming in the summer because I feel like one of our staff's strengths is our diligence in watching film of our incoming team. And that includes the guys returning. What do we think this guy can do now with this group, right? It was a conversation we had about Roddy Gale coming back last year and Amari Burnett and Will Cheddar. Not that we hadn't coached them before and we didn't know what they were capable of, but how are they going to fit with Morez Johnson and Damar and Elliot Cadeau? And so we're looking at Ricky and Oscar and Trey and Elliot and how they fit with JP and Mustafa and Jalen and Quinn and Brandon, because we don't want to just assume that Elliot's going to be able to play in the same kind of pick and rolls he played with Adai. Because if we get to the season, assuming that it doesn't work and we don't have another plan, then we're going to be trying to just kind of scrambling. And Dusty's a preparation guy. Oh, definitely not a scramble guy. That's why he was at the Final Four game. Not he was disrespecting Arizona. He was actually hoping to be prepared to play against UConn. Thought it was a very normal thing that people made a big deal out of for no reason. Like, what was he going to do? Sit in the hotel and watch it on TV instead? But the truth is, we'll evaluate all these guys. And as we get into the season, we'll evaluate how they're actually playing with one another. These things evolve all the time. I save random pictures on my phone, and I've shown this picture to about 10 people in the last week. I have a screenshot of our final score in our Cincinnati exhibition. It was 100-98 Cincinnati over Michigan. The number one defensive team in the country gave up 100 points at home to a Cincinnati team that didn't make the NCAA tournament, whose coach got fired. Now, we were without Adai and Morez, but then fast forward, we had both those guys against TCU and Wake Forest, and we didn't play great. So it took some time for those guys to learn how they needed to play together, but for us as a coaching staff to maybe tweak how we were playing those guys. Our rotations became a lot more easy to follow as you watched the season. Adai came out at about the 17-minute, 20 mark every first half. Morez came out at the 16-minute media, and then we kind of figured out how to get those guys back on the court for some more time later in the half and in the second half. So it's a process without going into all the details on what specifically we look for. Dusty loves flow. He loves compatibility. And obviously he loves to have guys who are very, very smart on the court figuring things out on their own together.
Yeah, and that's all the stuff that I think is a little bit sort of lost in the revisionist history of it all, right? With the mercenaries and the this and the that, right?
Sure.
I mean, you got 3 players who played center in either reserve roles or at the power or at the group of 5 level the year before, and you're starting them all together, right? I mean, it's an entirely different thing to do. So, all right, we're going to turn to Cade. If you're listening on the podcast feed, this is going to be a quick break. If you're listening live, we will be back in 2 seconds. So, quick break, and we'll be right back with Mike Boynton. All right. Cade Cunningham is a star for the Detroit Pistons, who we've been alluding to all episode, who just led pretty miraculous comeback down 3-1 to the Magic. Shades of when I was 10 years old. I remember I was at game 5 when they were down 3-1, and then they won, and they were the last time a 1 seed was down 3-1 to an 8 seed and came back was the Pistons Magic in 2003. They did it again here 23 years later. Did you, I'm not saying you're going to like take the, did you talk with Cade at all throughout this series? I mean, I know I see you at a lot of Pistons games. I know you guys are obviously very close. When was your last contact with him? What does your guys' interaction look like these days?
I talk to Cade probably 2 to 3 times a week. Sometimes it's a couple text conversation. Sometimes it's a talk on the phone. We're very, very close. And it's been one of the blessings in my life that I got to meet him and his family when he was about 14 years old. And it's pretty cool that he cares enough about people and the people close to him that he still takes my calls and answers my texts. Obviously, I go as often as I can. Kay's not very close with very many people. My son, Ace, who's 13 years old, is actually one of his closer friends. It's crazy. But he was obviously with us when we recruited him and followed his career. He's a tremendous human, man. And I don't want to sound in any way like any kind of prophet or arrogant, but when I first saw Cade play in 2016, I knew he would be capable. I knew he was capable of doing this. It was just something about his presence, his intellect, his maturity that said, this dude's a star. And it's just a matter of when it happens. And I'm glad to have been a small part of that journey. I was a much better coach during his year than any other year and any year since. And so, yeah, he's an awesome dude.
This last year, you might have outdone yourself, but I feel like, we'd watched sort of his progression throughout the years during his time in Detroit. It feels like, really this whole year, but also this series, I feel like he's cemented himself as a superstar in this league. Do you see it that way? Yeah.
And this is going to sound crazy. Like part of the reason that Yax and I developed such a connection is I see a lot of similarities from a personality standpoint as a team member, different games in every way, right? Yax is not the playmaker, but he can play make. He's a little bit bigger, honestly, but because they're so unselfish as people and players, like they pour confidence into the guys they play with. Trey McKinney benefited a lot from playing with Yax. Trey had no idea how hard college basketball would be because most young guys who are really, really talented and have success pretty much their whole life playing basketball don't understand how hard it is to transition to the next level. But Yax spending the time he did, Roddy spending the time he did. And Cade's biggest probably weakness, I would say, is that he doesn't think that he's a star. He doesn't think that way. He doesn't act that way. He actually, Dennis Jenkins, I believe, is a better player because he plays with Cade Cunningham. And because Cade empowers him, say, hey, man, if you're out here with me and they're double teaming me, you got to be confident. You're in the NBA now. Like, you're here for a reason. Go make the play. Like, Jalen Duren, as good as he is a great beneficiary playing with a guy who can play over the top all the time, right? It gives him an opportunity to be good offensively when otherwise he would, as we've seen, not be able to create his own shot as much. It's not a criticism of anybody. It's just that this team works well together, and a big part of it is because they have a star who acts like a normal dude.
That seems like a real similarity between him and Yax, right? I know how much you guys were working with Yax behind the scenes. It's like everybody here came here to play a role. Your role is star, right? Like your role is to be the guy. Like we are giving you the keys. Please do that. But as far as Cade, what impressed you most about him this season?
I think the two things that I would point to that I've always come back to, he's extremely humble to what I talked to before. Like he wants everybody around him to be great. He wants them to believe that they're great. But the other thing he does, which you've seen in the series, he has a unique ability to when it means the most, he can raise his level in a way that only the best dudes can. And we've seen it with, the Kobe's and the Rip Hamiltons and the Billupses and the guys who've achieved at the highest level, even guys who maybe people would say overachieved, is when it was on the line and he needed to be, like yesterday. He was aggressive from the outset. Game 1, he was passive. He turned the ball over a little bit too much in game 3 and 4. I'm like, hey man, no, your team wants you to go and they will follow you. They're basically telling you, please be the guy. We'll figure it out along the way. But he can figure out when he needs to be aggressive and when he needs to take a lot of shots in the first half. And I saw this firsthand. I'll tell you a quick story. So when I was coaching Cade, it was during the COVID year. And so it was weird, fans here, not fans here, whatever. So we play at K-State on a Saturday afternoon, and K-State was coming into our game, I think with 7 players. And I think their top 4 players weren't part of the 7. And so we feel really good that we're going to win. We have a pretty good team and we played the game. We won by 12 or 13, and Cade takes 2 shots. He took 2 shots in the college basketball game. And so after the game, on the bus ride back from Manhattan, Kansas to Stillwater, I tell Cade, I say, hey, listen, I appreciate you and your unselfishness, but if you take 2 shots on Tuesday, we have no chance to win. We're playing Kansas on a Tuesday at home. And Cade looks at me, he's like, I know. And he's like, you know me well enough. I know this. And lo and behold, he takes the first 5 shots of the game against Kansas. He makes all of them. Bill Self calls a timeout. We got the momentum. Became a great game. We wound up winning, but his awareness of what his team needs from him and the stakes are high and how to get there to meet those expectations is pretty special.
I find Cade to be such a unique player. And I was talking to some friends the other day about think about how easy it is to build a team around Cade, because even if you want to say okay, you want to debate Anthony Edwards versus Cade, right? Both are very special players. But with Ant, it's okay, does he need a point guard next to him? Does he need do you put another guard next to him, right? Even if you want to go Jokic, okay, well then, what if you happen to land another really talented rim runner? Can he play with Jokic? Even as amazing as those players are, who would be your comp for Cade? Because I just find him to be such a unique player, especially in this day and age where, like you said, he comes, and even I think back when he came back from the lung injury, right? He's just all right, I'm going to kind of get my legs back and play a completely different style than we see him play in game 5 or game 1, right?
Yeah, no, his awareness, that speaks to it, right? And I do think that the beauty of his game, and I had these conversations with every NBA scout and GM the year I had him, how do we play him? What's the best way to use him? And I said, put him on the court with 9 other people. That's what you do. And that's really the only way to appreciate Cade. So Cade goes through the draft process, and there are some really important, smart, I think, people who are now questioning whether he's the best guy in the draft, because he's in the draft with a guy named Jalen Green, who's this freak athlete who shows up in a one-on-one workout and you're like, whoa. And you cannot appreciate Cade's game in a one-on-one workout. You just can't. He's not going to touch the top of the backboard. He's not going to run that fast. And so it gets to where they're doing all these measurements. And I tell them guys, listen, put 9 people out there and you will understand that everybody on that court can appreciate his ability. So can he play on the ball? I had people telling me I couldn't play him as a point guard in college. And I'm like, he's playing point guard, guys. He's going to have the ball in his hands for 39 minutes and 39 seconds every game if he can. He's playing point guard. And he played with 2 other ball handlers. So we would post him up against smaller guys. We use him in a lot of unique ways, but he can play point guard. He can facilitate. He can make open shots in the corner if you drive a kick and leave him. He can shoot off the bounce. He can shoot off the move. He can post you up. And he's not the most explosive athletically, but he doesn't need to be. His genius is that he is extremely smart. He knows what everybody on the court is at all times, offensively and defensively. He knows how to make adjustments on the fly. And the beauty of him is that you have to see him in a live game with 9 other people and 3 referees, and you'll see that he's one of the best players to play the basketball game.
And is a lot of that just, that's something you're born with? And if you could talk to what's his work ethic like behind the
tremendous.
scenes to get to it?
I would say that Cade would tell you that he wasn't necessarily born the most talented. In fact, I even go back again. When I first started recruiting Cade, I was told that he was not the best player in the city of Dallas at his age. There's a guy that Detroit people may have some familiarity with named R.J. Hampton. Yep. And they were in the same class. And I went and saw those kids both for the first time on the same day They were both freshmen in high school. And I offered Cade a scholarship and said, I think RJ could get there, but there are more things that I'm worried about with him. His game was based on athleticism and explosiveness. And at a young age, man, I think those things are easy to catch up to. But when you have this and that thing's leap years ahead of what it's supposed to be at that age, I think that gives you a real chance. So his brother, Cannon, who played at SMU, really smart. He was 6'10", but he had some ball skills that like Cade, he could handle it and pass it, really shoot it. But because he was 6'10", he was made to be a post player. And he was dead set on training his younger brother to be a playmaker and only allow him to be coached by people who would allow him to develop those skills and work on them. And he actually became his coach and worked coach from AAU. And then I remember one summer, I watched Cade as he was transitioning to full-time point guard. His brother coached him in AAU, and he made him run a pick and roll every possession all summer. And it was a disaster. It was a disaster. And Cade hated it, and he hated his brother for it. And obviously it's paid off for him because so many reps, right? He learned, he wouldn't watch film, he studied it, he got better at it. And it's the reason he's really kind of like surgical with it now, man. And he can make the pocket pass, he can lob it, he can skip across court. The pass he makes to, I think, either Duncan or Dennis Jenkins late in the second half yesterday, basically to give JB the license to take Cade out, the game was over, was a pass that I've seen very few guys make. I saw Elliot Cadeau make him a few this year, but those guys who can make that pass, man, especially at his size, special stuff.
I already have kept you longer than we said we would, but I have one more question just because we have the basketball mind with us. And I think about someone with that size, with that IQ, who can make that type of pass, and he is still doing it. Could we get your thoughts on LeBron James as a basketball guy?
I didn't answer this question. I would say to give a comparison, I said this in college. Cade reminds me of Grant Hill, who's probably better at making plays for others, but same size, not the greatest athlete, but big and strong, physical, another Piston guy. Obviously hope Cade's career lasts a lot longer than unfortunately Grant's did. LeBron, I love him. Tremendous talent. I'm not sure that our game, and this is all I do, man. This is why it wasn't hard for me to do this. If I wasn't doing this, I'd be watching an old NBA game or rewatching the game from this season, trying to get better. I don't have hobbies. I'm a boring dude. But I don't think our game has ever seen anything like LeBron. Ever. The combination of size, skill, athleticism, intelligence, the desire to win. And I think his competitiveness gets questioned a lot, unfortunately, because you can't be that good. Like you just can't. I think it's kind of just fodder for the sports talk. LeBron's obviously extremely competitive dude. Now, has he been able to will his team to win the way Mike and Kobe did? No, but his game is so different. And I don't know if either one of them could translate their game to be the kind of facilitator that he's capable of being at times. And they didn't want to. It was like, don't worry about it. I don't need to facilitate. We're going to win because I'm going to score every time. And they were good enough to do it. LeBron's good enough to do it as well. I still would put him kind of below those guys on my, kind of hierarchy. But there's no question he's one of the greatest 3 or 4 players to ever play the game of basketball. He'll go down with a tremendous legacy. Even watching what he's doing now. I mean, I watched freaking Game 6 last week, and I was like, every year I watch, like, this has got to be the year where we see a decline.
It's absurd.
And 28-8-7.
Guys, I haven't played a meaningful basketball game in I'm 44, 22 years. To watch this dude do it, like
I saw today LeBron is the same exact age as JJ Redick and Mark Daigneault, the coaches for both teams. So it's like, that's a pretty good comp there, right? Puts things into perspective.
Yeah. And he's obviously a better player. He's probably smarter than both of them.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Oh, yeah. No, I don't doubt it. All right. Well, Mike, you took a ton of time to be with us. Hope everybody enjoyed that. I know we did a little double dip for Pistons fans, reminiscing on the best Michigan basketball season in history. Looking forward to what, if I know your guys' staff, is going to be another good one next year. And I'm sure we'll talk sometime throughout the summer. Take care of yourself and appreciate you coming on.
Appreciate you guys having me. I hope it was enjoyable for the fans, and maybe we'll do it again sometime.
Yes, sir. Holding you to it. Yeah, once again, thanks to Mike Boynton Jr. for joining the show. Hopefully that was an insight to sort of how he acts. I mean, it's why we felt comfortable and like, wow, he was so willing to come on. I mean, I have so many great hoops conversations with him just throughout the season, just talking on the side of the court. I mean, he's always willing to shed some light, or he has a story or something to share. What did anything stand out to you in particular, Andrew?
Just like staff cohesion really kind of stuck out to me, especially from a guy who he could have come in with an ego, right? Like he had, has head coach pedigree at Oklahoma State, right? He's been there before, but you can so clearly tell the top-down buy-in with the staff and just how all moving in the same direction they are. And, you see the results in the court, right? Like, if we took a 20-year sample size, there's going to be ups, there's going to be downs, there's going to be things along the way, but like all you can control is the process. And I think that they're doing it as well as anybody in the country right now.
That was perfectly said. And I mean, it's exactly what Dusty May talks about. Like he's like, we don't do resulting, right? Like he's like, if you only look at the results and if it's worked, that means it worked. If it didn't, it means it didn't. There's a lot more nuance to that. This is day in, day out, morning, noon, and night. And we just said it on the show, right? Like and I always use the phrase "no stone unturned." I mean, it is unbelievable. Like sometimes I'll talk with like people on the staff, people around the program, people affiliated with it, just some conversations just for knowledge. And the amount of things you hear, it's incredible. It's incredible what they think about. If this, then that, if that, then this. It's not an accident that they ended up where they ended up, right? Like, yes, they had an incredibly talented roster. They were able to land that incredibly talented roster. They were able to get the most out of their talent, and they were able to put together just an all-time season. So glad we were able to get him on before I think, we're not done for the off season, but we got a little bit of a hiatus coming up.
Yes, that's safe to say. Much like myself last spring, when I got married in April of last year, got a wedding of your own coming up here at the end of May. I'll be in attendance. I can't wait. I'm actually going on a little bit of a much needed vacation next week. So that's going to push us back as far as next week. But yeah, we're going to keep our eyes and, try to line up some fun interviews similar to Mike, where we just talk ball, right? I feel like we owe the listeners a football one coming up here at some point, right? Maybe someone from the football universe, because it's been all basketball this year, and understandably so with this year that we've seen. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. And we appreciate everyone for tuning in, listening to Mike. Stay tuned on your feeds. We'll try to keep you guys updated on social media as well. Thank you to Robin Shan, always ultra flexible, helping us out with tech issues. My mic is having all kinds. It's on the fritz, and Robin's at the drop of a hat helping us out. So he's the best. Thank you to our acting sports editor, Ryan Four. And thank you to Nicole Avery Nichols, our editor-in-chief, who makes it all happen. So with that, we'll talk to you guys in a couple weeks and have a good start to your spring, summertime here as the weather starts to turn.